Finch here from the discussion. Today, you're in for a treat. We've had many comments and questions raised from our enthusiastic readers about the issues arising from The Tempest and how Hagseed, a modern retelling of The Tempest, influenced their perspectives. Today, three key issues will be discussed. First, imprisonment and marginalisation, the ongoing effects of colonisation and how Atwood challenges social oppression. Next, we'll explore gender roles between the two different time periods and how Atwood's Hagseed constructs a new idea of female characterisation. Finally, we'll explore unanswered questions left by Shakespeare and Atwood cleverly answers. Here to discuss these issues with me today is playwright and author William Shakespeare and Margaret Atwood.
Good morning, young sire.
Good morning, Michael. Thank you for having us.
Let's dive straight in. The motif of imprisonment, physical and mental, and marginalisation is a recurring idea throughout both The Tempest and Hagseed. Shakespeare, where your protagonist Prospero is exiled to the island, he is quick to establish his dominance over the inhabitants of the island. The readers want to know how his exile led to marginalisation of these inhabitants.
Well, when I wrote this play in 1611, it was during the time of British expansion and the settlement of new colonies in the Americas under the rule of King James I.
The Jacobean people must have been excited about these expansions.
Oh yes, I appeal to both the king and the masses in my play by imprisoning Prospero on the island, which led him to take over the island. I used the character Caliban and Ariel to show how the European worldview saw the native people as uncivilized and to only be treated as slaves.
Struth, there's plenty of discussion from our readers about the unfair treatment of both Caliban and Ariel. Can you give us some examples where Prospero establishes dominance?
Yes, Caliban tries to explain that he inherited the island from his mother. This island mine by Syricax, my mother, which thou takest from me, you stay me, keep me from the rest of the island. Prospero comes from an established colony. Clearly he has the right to land.
Your use of language, thou takest from me, and symbolism is strong here by using a pigsty to show how Caliban was imprisoned like a mere beast.
No, that's not all. Ariel refers to Prospero as a master. All hail, great master. And further to this, Prospero enslaves Caliban. Caliban, whom now I keep in service, my slave. Do you know how much a slave was worth back in my day? I could have made a fortune out of Caliban.
You've marginalised these characters by taking their freedoms and land ownerships away from them. Now Atwood, you've taken a different approach to this issue of marginalisation and imprisonment.
Yes, I have. With the greatest respect to Shakespeare, even though it has been 400 years since The Tempest was written, marginalisation still exists in our societies today. For example, mistreatment and prejudice against Indigenous cultures and the oppression of minority groups. I wanted to give a voice to those who are at a societal disadvantage by their own society. This was the driving force behind my novel, Hagseed, even set in modern day 2013.
The character Felix in your novel mirrors Prospero from The Tempest. When he is betrayed by Tony, Felix withdraws and exiles himself from society. The readers want to know your motives of imprisonment Felix within his own mind.
Felix, like Prospero, had been excluded from society. I wanted to shift the perspective of Felix's mental imprisonment from being a negative situation like Prospero controlling and taking over the inhabitants to finding a positive way to break the cycle of marginalisation.
Can you give us the pinnacle moments when Felix decides to take the first step to find purpose again?
Oh. Now, quoting Felix. Yes. Snap out of it. Pull yourself together. Break out of your cell. You need a real-world connection. I have used symbolism of a jail cell being Felix's own mind, which he needs to break out of to find his inner purpose back to society.
Felix regains his purpose by taking a teaching job at the Fletcher Correctional Facility and works with the inmates to perform their own version of The Tempest. You have clearly used meta-theatre to show the issues of marginalisation. We had so many comments from our readers on how the inmates connected with Caliban from The Tempest and how he was treated by Prospero. And what about those comments from Red Coyote? They were powerful.
Oh yes, I used the inmates to mirror Caliban's mistreatment. I included character Red Coyote as a native Canadian prisoner who points out that Prospero is a slave driver, land stealer, shouldn't have been there in the first place. It's not his island.
Here is a comment from one of our readers. This is why I think Caliban is seen turning to villainy, because he's had everything taken away from him.
That's exactly what I intended. Racism and oppression are still issues in the modern day. The inmates immediately identified with Caliban. And yes, it's like he's black or native or something. 5 strikes against him from day one. I needed to find a way to shift the perspective, reveal mistreatment of minority groups and how many turn to crime because of this.
It is a sad statistic that disadvantaged social groups experience discrimination and exclusion and are closely linked to crime. Did you know that inmates are 25 times more likely to come from marginalised groups?
I wanted to find a way to show how people can be treated without prejudice, which in turn helps him to build new lives. Felix is more sympathetic. He refused to call them inmates, not while they were in his theatre troupe. Felix notes, it's our play. Felix treats the prisoners as human beings and is inclusive.
The readers particularly like how Legs, one of the inmates, uses a rap to give Caliban a voice in their version of the play. Ain't gonna get on the back of the bus. You can give your land right back to us. Which is my personal favourite line, giving a voice to the marginalised.
Hear, hear to that.
Such diverse views. How times have changed. Imperialism was common back in my time, never disputed. To imagine giving a voice to the oppressed, such a soliloquy I could write.
Now let's look at another issue. The roles and values of women. Shakespeare, the readers are wanting to know why there's only one woman in The Tempest, while the other characters are dominant by males.
Remember, young man, I wrote this during the Jacobean era. Gender roles were clearly defined by patriarchal paradigm. Women were the property of men. Women were restricted to what they were allowed to do. Maybe to receive proper education, unable to receive proper education or enter politics. They were confined to the household.
The devil take your fingers.
Now, my dear, there were only 2 pathways for women in these times: marriage or joining a convent.
A convent? How preposterous! You hagseed!
Hence the title of your novel. So what you're trying to say here, Shakespeare, is that you minimalise the presence of female characters down to 1. Prospero's daughter Miranda, characterising her as an innocent, passive and submissive woman, who is silenced and controlled by her father.
What ho, boy! You've hit the nail right on the head. I only gave Miranda 50 lines, and most of them were silenced by Prospero, interrupting her by saying, "Mark me, I wanted to show Prospero's control over Miranda by limiting her own choices. Thou art inclined to sleep. Thou canst choose, Miranda sleeps."
Oh, good heavens.
One of our readers were particularly displeased about Miranda's marriage transaction to Ferdinand. In this situation, she was only used for the economic gain between Prospero and Alonso, the King of Naples.
I remember writing that exact line. Think, own acquisition, worthily purchased, take my daughter. And furthermore, Miranda in my play was always played by a male actor. It would have been an outrage for a woman to be on the stage.
This is why I needed to challenge and divert the dominant characters in my retelling to empower women. Purposefully, I added a lot more females in Hagseed. Felix's daughter Miranda, Lydia, Anne-Marie, Estelle, and Maud.
The readers have certainly embraced these new perspectives of introducing strong female characters in Hagseed. Remember, Will, we're in a modern era now, and we have a post-feminist view on society.
I wanted the modern woman to be assertive and to be seen through a post-feminist lens of their characterization. My character, Anne-Marie, plays the role of Miranda in Felix's play The Tempest. Further to this, I gave Anne-Marie the ability to speak her own mind, and she uses firm language to do it.
The inmates are first introduced to Anne-Marie by watching a YouTube video.
The video shows her physical strength as a fight dancer, encouraging comments from the inmates such as, "She could tear a strip off you."
One of the posts from our readers have pointed out the strength of Anne-Marie's character when she is going through the script with the inmates and strides to the front saying, "If you don't mind, I have something to add. You're talking as if Miranda is just a rag doll. It wouldn't be like that. Atwood, you have used high modality language here."
It was very important for my character, Anne-Marie, to assert her voice among the male inmates about not stereotyping women as they were 400 years ago.
Women in my day, goddesses with holy innocence.
I rest my case.
Finally, Shakespeare. The readers felt that there were a plethora of unanswered questions that were left unresolved at the end of The Tempest. I thought we could just focus on one for our discussion. What was the infamous Antonio's reasoning for undermining Prospero? Was it justified?
Well, as a matter of fact, I intentionally left some ambiguities, and my plan has worked. For now, 400 years later, readers still ponder the complexities of these unanswered questions.
Well, it sure has prompted much discussion, as the readers have found some new insights by reading Hagseed.
Yes, I have teased out these unanswered questions, which gives a new insight into the characters' motivations and reasonings.
Well, from one author to another, I'm intrigued to hear how you have answered these questions. Prospero was wronged. He trusted his brother to run Milan while he was practicing magical arts. He never intended Antonio to undermine him.
Well, Shakespeare, it was only Prospero who gave the backstory of how he was overthrown. The audience does not hear Antonio's side of the story at all. Today's audiences prefer to know what the characters have to say by letting them speak out. It is not revealed that Prospero was a bad leader. This is ambiguous.
I decided to bring a fresh idea to this in Hagseed by giving Antonio a voice, as the inmates created a musical rap backstory from Antonio's perspective.
He was stuck in his book doing his magic. I was bossing around the whole Milan nation. Turn me into his evil twin. I went the way of sin.
See, now this gives Antonio a voice, explaining his motivations, not leaving the audience in the dark. The readers can clearly see how Prospero was failing in his leadership abilities through his distraction of the magical arts.
This would have been very difficult for Antonio at the time, being left to run Milan all on his own.
What he did wasn't right. However, Antonio felt a sense of regret when he went the way of sin, a loving wrong for the good of the people.
I respect this interpretation, giving new insights to Antonio's motivations. But what makes a good leader in your time? Are they kings, queens, knights or nobles?
Well, in most societies today, we have governments and parliaments with representatives that are of the people, for the people, and by the people. Kings and queens don't have absolute power. Leadership comes with support.
As a final comment, one of our readers pointed out that Felix often has thoughts of self-blame and repeats, if only. Could this be because you have voiced Antonio's motivations, which could have mirrored Tony's portrayal of Felix?
It wasn't right for Tony to betray Felix, but he too would have felt building pressure with Felix's distractions. This offers a great way for Felix to reflect on the past and how he can improve himself for the future. I included the epilogue, "Set me free." Felix wants to be a better version of himself, be present and live a life with purpose. Writing Hagseed gave me the opportunity to bridge the gap between Shakespeare's original masterpiece for a modern audience. My aim was to build on and add to his original ideas, both respecting Shakespeare's triumphant work while exploring modern-day issues.
Well, my dear lady, after 400 years you have kept my writings alive. I thank you for your interest and love of my play.
I'm sure you'll all agree that this interview has been a valuable way to explore the issues from The Tempest and how Hagseed has influenced our perspectives of these issues. I would like to thank authors William Shakespeare and Margaret Atwood for your time here on the discussion today.
I thank you.
Thank you, Michael.